What is insurance? Insurance gives an individual or entity financial protection or reimbursement in the event of a loss. We have auto, health, life, and property insurance. But do you have any insurance on your portfolio? Did you know that you can have financial protection to the downside? Let me show you how you can benefit from a downturn in the market by putting insurance on your portfolio. Now, when I say take out insurance on your portfolio, I don't necessarily mean you have to meet with an insurance agent or go through a complicated process to take out an insurance policy on the exact stock that you own. When I say take insurance out, I simply mean purchase a stock option. And that stock option is going to be a put option. Now, with a put, in its most basic definition, the put is going to give the owner, the buyer of that put option, the right to sell shares of a stock at a predetermined price. Now, when you lock in that contract for the predetermined price, which is going to be considered the strike price for a specified amount of time, you can assign shares to someone at the higher price because you bought that contract. Now, of course, when it comes to this put option, there are some pros and cons. Now, the cons of a put option, you're going to have a lower probability of profit. The reason you're going to have a lower probability of profit is because you're only going to make money in one direction. And this is if the price of the stock decreases. Not to mention, when you're buying options, you're automatically going to need the stock price to go to a certain point below the stock price in order for you to collect back your debit paid. Another one is time decay. Anytime you buy options, time is working against you. So no matter what, as every day goes by, you're automatically losing value in your premium. The contract is going to expire. Now, anytime you trade options, you do have to pick a specific date. You have to pick a time where you are allowed to make a decision within that time frame. Of course, this is relative to stock. Stock, it's unlimited time. You can hold it as long as the company is in business. And the last one, you may have to purchase more than one contract to properly hedge your 100 shares. Now, this is going to be based on delta. I don't want to get into the complexities of this. But let's say, for instance, you have a delta of 30 and you purchase one put contract. Now, of course, one put contract gives you the right to sell 100 shares because one contract equals 100 shares. But with delta being 30, that lets you know that this put contract is only going to protect 30%, 30 shares of your stock position. So you may have to purchase multiple contracts to properly hedge 100% or 100 shares of the underlying that you own. Now, of course, with the cons, there are some pros, okay? Now, you can assign shares at a higher price, which is the strike price you and the seller determine during the duration of the contract. Now, let's say, for instance, you have a stock price of $100. You purchase a put option at $100 at the strike price of $100. Let's say if the stock price, the market value dips to $90, you can assign the shares at $100 because of that put option. Now you have protection to the downside. The reason you have protection to the downside is because you lock in that strike price and you can assign shares at that price. Cap loss. Now, when your losses are capped because anytime you pay a debit when you're buying options, you cannot lose any more than a debit paid. And it offsets any losses on your stock position if you choose to keep the stock. Now, let's say you're showing a loss on your stock position, but you have a gain on your put position. You can always close that put position before it expires, pocket the profit that you have because of the decrease in price, and you don't necessarily have to sell your shares. Now, of course, on paper, you would see unrealized losses, but it won't be realized until you actually sell those shares or get rid of the shares. So it would give you time for the stock price to bounce back in the green territory. Now, those are some of the pros and cons of buying a put option. And as you can see, just going into the basics of buying a put contract, why it's important to have contracts if you have stock. Now that I've walked you through or just scratched the surface of what a put option is, I want to show you an example of what the numbers look like in regards to protecting your stock with a put option. Now, there are a lot of factors that are left out here. What I'm going to do is use delta, just so you can at least get an understanding on how the numbers work. But of course, I will touch on all factors later on once we get a basic understanding of how a put option works. Okay, so I just want to briefly walk you through the numbers just so you can get a visual on how it looks when purchasing a put contract against your stock. Now, of course, like I said, I did leave out a number of factors just so you can understand the basics and how directions work when it comes to your options premium when you buy versus selling. And we're only going to use delta. That way we can give you that basic understanding on movement in your premium per $1 move in the stock price. Now, first we're just going to start off with your regular individual stock position. We use 5 below. Purchase 100 shares at $120, of course, $12,000. Now, let's say if that stock position, let's say if the price dips by $7, it dips to $113. Now, you're automatically going to show a loss of $700. You're 7 times 100 shares. Okay. Now, what does it look like when you have a put? Okay. Now, remember, we bought shares at $120. So what we're going to do is use a long put. We're going to buy a put with a strike price of 120. Remember, that strike price is the predetermined price that we lock in. We're locking in the right to sell shares at 120 at the strike price. Now, of course, for us to lock in that price, we do have to pay a debit to the seller. And we're going to pay a debit of $260. One contract, remember, equals 100 shares. You have to multiply that 100 to the debit paid. You're going to pay $260 to protect your $12,000 position. Now, our break-even point is going to be $117.40. So we're not going to get our debit paid back until the stock price dips to $117.40. Anytime you're buying an option, you do have to take that break-even into consideration because the stock price, you won't get that back until the stock price gets to that point. So when buying a put option, you do have to subtract the $260 from $120. Okay. Now our delta, we're just going to keep it very simple, is going to be 1. Delta is going to give us the change in our premium per $1 move in the stock price. So now when you're buying options, you buy a debit and you want to sell it back to the market at a higher price. So for every $1 move in the stock price down, our options premium is going to increase by 1, all else equal. Now delta always changes. It doesn't stay the same. But for simplicity, we're going to keep it the same. Now remember, stock price dipped by 7, so our premium is going to increase by 7. 260 plus 7, 960. So now we're showing $960 profit, but remember, we paid our debit, take it away from our debit, $260. Now the stock price went down $7, and we actually made a profit of $700, which actually offsets our loss. Now, another good thing is you don't necessarily have to give up your shares. You don't have to sell these shares at 120, even though it's trading at 113. You can close this position, pocket the $700, and still have the stock. Now, this isn't a real loss. It's just a paper loss. Now, this is unrealized gains, what they call it. Now, if you close this position, now it's real. It's a realized gain. You have this loss. But you can wait till the stock price rebounds back to 120. You broke even, but you made an extra $700. This is the importance of taking a put option, taking insurance out in your portfolio. It gives you, or also just trading options, it gives you an opportunity to generate additional revenue, additional income on your current stock position. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, I'm going to touch on, remember, I touched on how to buy a call option. Go back and watch that video. Here, I'm touching on how to buy a put option, taking insurance out on your portfolio. Next week, I'm going to talk about the opposite, selling a call, and then a week after, selling a put. After that, we'll go more into strategies, touching on spreads and whatnot. Subscribe, like, comment, whatever questions you have. I definitely appreciate you reaching out. Peace.